Hello everyone, welcome to day 10 of Prelims Warm Up, a new initiative by AptiPlus Academy for Civil Services, where we are discussing the important topics from current affairs which are relevant for the upcoming UPSC Prelims 2020. My name is Shayak Datta and I am the faculty for Geography and Environment at AptiPlus Academy for Civil Services. So let us start with our first topic of the day. The first question is with regards to herd immunity. So let us see the question. The first question is saying, consider the following statements with regards to herd immunity and select the correct option. So this particular term has been in the news of late, and for a long period of time we get to see that many countries have been talking about this particular term, that is herd immunity. So let us see what the question says. The question says, first statement, this is a form of indirect protection from infectious diseases. Second statement, it can result in large number of deaths in the beginning. Third, it signifies the process by which a population with a high number of members with immunity to a particular disease can protect the small number of non-immune members from the pathogen. So pathogen means that particular organism or that particular microbe which is causing the disease. So basically these are the three statements that we have with regards to herd immunity, and we have to choose the correct statements. So let us analyze the statements one by one. First statement, this is a form of indirect protection from infectious diseases. Actually this is correct. I'll explain what is herd immunity in a while, but before that let us analyze each of these statements. Second statement is it can result in large number of deaths in the beginning. That is, when you are starting out with the process of herd immunity, there is a possibility that the initially at least the number of deaths will be very high. The death rate will spike up, and yeah, that is correct. The second statement is also correct. The third statement, it signifies the process by which a population with a high number of members with immunity to a particular disease can protect the small number of non-immune members from the pathogen. So the third statement is also correct, and we get to see this particular term. It had come in the news mainly with regards to UK, where it was initially decided that UK will be following this particular policy of herd immunity to deal with the coronavirus, COVID-19. The idea is this, when we talk about herd immunity, the idea is this, here it is not talking about directly protecting anybody, but it is basically saying that let the community develop its own immunity against like any like if there is any kind of pathogen, our body automatically has or it develops antibodies against it. So instead of completely trying to prevent the COVID-19 from spreading, UK was thinking of letting it spread in a slow manner, not in an exponential manner, so that the population slowly develops antibodies against it, immunity against it. So if that happens, automatically what will happen is this particular COVID-19, like if most of the people in the population, if they develop an immunity against it, so in that case it will be difficult for this virus to actually affect and find out any such individual who is not immune to it. If most of the population develops immunity against it, then the effect on the population, the harmful effects will actually subside, because it will be difficult for the virus to find such a host who is not immune to it. So that is why this third statement, you see, it signifies the process by which a population with a high number of members with immunity to a particular disease can protect the small number of non-immune members from the pathogen. So almost what was being decided is in UK was that if 60% of the population of UK gets infected with COVID-19, yes, then what will happen? Initially the number of deaths will be high, but the people who will survive, they will be the ones who have developed immunity against it. Then automatically what will happen, in the population which is surviving ultimately, most of the people will be immune because they would have recovered against COVID-19, and hence for the virus itself it will be difficult to find a new host who is not immune to it. So over a period of time, the virus, it won't be able to cause the harmful effects which it is causing right now, and because of that the deaths will also start to reduce. But yes, initially it will cause a large number of deaths because there will be so many people who will not be immune to the virus initially. Okay, and because this is a roundabout method of protecting the vulnerable, so that is why it is being called as an indirect process of protecting the population from infectious diseases. So all the three statements are correct. Your correct option is B, all of the above. And you should learn a little bit more regarding this. You can Google it and you'll find a lot of links for herd immunity. I have pasted the Wikipedia link over here. But apart from that, there are many other articles also which you can read and understand what is meant by herd immunity. A very important term, keeping in mind the entire scenario which is unfolding across the world right now. Moving on to the next question that we have. This question is with regards to electrosmog. And let us see, there are three statements given under it. First statement is it is a type of pollutant. Second statement, it cannot be seen but it has a distinct smell. Third, it has been dealt with under Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981 and the Environment Protection Act of 1986. So the thing is, why this was in the news, there were many reasons, one of them being 5G and people's apprehension that 5G might be responsible for certain issues which might be occurring in the bodies of human beings. So the thing is, when it comes to electrosmog, first of all, most of you would be aware about smog, and since you are aware about smog, so automatically you will be able to understand the first statement should be correct, because if it is talking about electrosmog, more or less you can relate and you can say the first statement is correct. But then it becomes difficult for you to go ahead. I mean, first statement tak theek hai, but beyond that, if you don't know, you will not be able to proceed. So the second statement talks about it cannot be seen but it has a distinct smell. So this electrosmog, it is mainly caused because of electroactive radiation. So basically it is due to radiation, electromagnetic radiation, and as a result of all this, what happens is it is all radiation, right? So you cannot smell it, neither can you see it. So neither can it be seen nor can it be smelled. It does not have a smell, right? But yes, the effect of it can be felt by our body, by the cells of our body. Eventually, over a long period of time, the effect can be felt. It will affect the cells in a harmful manner. So basically, the second statement is incorrect because neither can it be seen nor is there any smell. Third statement, it has been dealt with under Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981 and the Environment Protection Act of 1986. Again, see, if you are not aware about electrosmog exactly, then you will think of it, matlab, you will tend to guess and you will tend to hazard a guess and thinking okay, it is a pollutant, and smog we know usually affects the atmosphere. It should be dealt with under Air Prevention and Control of Pollution, or if not Air Act 1981, at least it should be under Environment Protection Act of 1986. But the reality is there is no such legislation in India which deals with the topic of electrosmog. So third statement is also incorrect. Only the first one is correct. So your answer should be 2B. And this is the article from which I have taken this particular term. It was published in Down to Earth magazine, and you can check this link and read more about electrosmog. Okay? So I have pasted the link from which I have taken this particular question. Moving on to the next topic that we have, and this is with regards to Suranga Bawadi. Now, what is this? Suranga Bawadi. First statement, it has been selected by UNESCO as a cultural world heritage site. You know, UNESCO, it selects heritage sites across the world, world heritage sites mainly. And there are three types of world heritage sites that UNESCO will select, or there are three categories of world heritage sites that we get to see under UNESCO. One is the cultural world heritage site, the other is the natural world heritage sites, and there is another category where we find that such kind of sites will have both cultural as well as natural significance, and they are called as mixed world heritage sites. So here the first statement states that it has been selected by UNESCO as a cultural world heritage site. First statement. Second statement, it is present in Rajasthan. It is a part of the ancient carriage system of supplying water through subterranean tunnels. Subterranean means below the ground. So it is a part of that ancient system of supplying water through underground tunnels, and it is present in Rajasthan. Third statement, it was built by Adil Shah I of Adil Shahi dynasty of Bijapur in the 16th century. And fourth statement is it has entered the World Monuments watch list by this particular watch list. it is by the World Monument Funds. Okay? So these are the 4 statements given, and we have to understand which of them is correct or are correct. Now the thing is, this particular site, it had appeared in the Hindu, and that is from where I have taken this particular question. So I have pasted the link of the article also, you can go through it, but let us first analyze the statements. First statement, it has been selected by UNESCO as a cultural World Heritage Site. The answer is no. It has not been selected by UNESCO as a cultural World Heritage Site. On the other hand, this is why it was in the news. This fourth statement, it has entered the World Monuments Watch List, and this watch list has been prepared by the World Monuments Fund, which is an NGO, an organization. That is why it had come in the news. Second statement, it is present in Rajasthan. It is a part of the ancient carriage system of supplying water through subterranean tunnels. Now, this second part is correct, but the first part is incorrect, and that is incorrect because just third statement is correct. It was built by Adil Shah I of Adil Shahi dynasty of Bijapur. Bijapur is in Karnataka. So you cannot expect, or it is difficult for a particular ruler who is ruling Karnataka to go ahead and build the subterranean tunnels in Rajasthan. So the first part is incorrect. Second part is correct because this carriage system is an ancient system of supplying water through subterranean tunnels, and if you check for Suranga Bawadi its images, then you will get to know how it looks like. Okay? So the first 2 statements are incorrect. The third and the fourth statements are correct. So your answer should be D. So answer is D, and it is present in Bijapur, which is in Karnataka. Just now I told you. It was in the news because it has entered the World Monuments Watch List, and under this particular category, the category is Ancient Water System of the Deccan Plateau. Okay? And this has been brought to you by, this particular watch list, it is published by World Monuments Fund. So you can probably just go ahead and also read up a little bit regarding this particular body, World Monuments Fund. Regarding CARES, it is a water harnessing technology in which groundwater will be brought to the surface by a tunnel. Groundwater is brought to the surface by a tunnel, and in this system, interestingly, we get to see no mechanical pump or lift is used, but still groundwater is brought to the surface. And how that happens? That is happening through gravity. Okay, gravity alone will bring the water from the underground source onto the surface. And this technology, it had originated in Persia, which is present day Iran, and it was widely used during the medieval period. Okay? To know more about it, you can visit this Hindu's link from where I have taken this particular topic. So read up a little bit on this particular topic, important from your art and culture point of view. Moving on to the next one. Consider the following statements with regards to a new species of signal fish. Okay, fourth question talks about signal fish. So we have a new species of signal fish which has been recently discovered near the Kerala coast, and you have to select the correct option out of the given ones. Correct statement out of the given one. First statement says that it is the first species of the genus signal fish to be discovered in the Indian waters. So for the very first time, we get to see a species belonging to the signal fish genus has been discovered in Indian water. That is what the first statement says. The second statement says that its scientific name is whatever it is, Pteropsaron indicum. Okay? Now again, pronunciation is not important, but more or less just remember Ptero and indicum. That will be more than sufficient for us to be able to answer whatever comes from this particular topic in your UPSC prelims. So Pteropsaron indicum is the scientific name for it, and they are poorly studied as they live in waters beyond 50 meters depth. So basically they live in deep waters, and hence it becomes difficult to study these fish. They are an example of benthic fish. Benthic means those species which are found in the deeper parts of an aquatic ecosystem. So first statement is correct. Okay, this is the first species of the genus signal fish which has been discovered in the Indian waters. Second statement is also correct, and that is why it has been named as indicum, because it has been found in Indian waters. The third statement is also correct because they are an example of benthic fish, and they have been found deep. It was actually caught by a trawler, a fishing trawler, at a depth of almost 70 meters. Okay, so it is a bottom dwelling fish. And the thing is, these fish, they usually prefer to live in coral reef habitats, and hence it proves that there is some amount of coral reefs present near the Kerala coast. And there are many other characteristics appearance wise also you need to know, okay, how this particular fish looks like. So first of all the three statements are correct, so B should be the right answer. And I have also pasted the link from The Hindu, from where I have taken this particular topic. So please go to this link and read a little bit regarding this particular species of signal fish. Okay, it's an important topic for upcoming prelims 2020. Moving on to the next and the last question for the day, we get to see another term has been, or it was there in the news in the last 1 year. So strand hog is the term which has been in the news, and there are 4 of the statements given, 4 options have been given, and you have to choose which is correct. Strand hog. Okay, the first statement is saying, first option A, it is an endangered species of pig which has been recently discovered where in the northeastern jungles of India. So this northeastern jungles of India, they are very biodiverse, and from time to time there are 2 places, एक तो है northeast India and the other place is the Western Ghats. So these are the 2 places where we get to see very frequently new species are discovered because they are so biodiverse. In fact, if you remember, if you recall the term biodiversity hotspot, so in India we have 4 such biodiversity hotspots. Both of these areas, that is northeast India as well as the Western Ghats, both of them feature among the 4 biodiversity hotspots that we have in India. Okay. So moving on, it is an endangered species of pig which has recently been discovered in the northeastern jungles of India. That is option A. Option B, it is a medical procedure which involves manipulation of the DNA strands to prevent inherited diseases. Okay. And option C is a textile. It is a textile which has been manufactured from the strands taken out of a pig's tail. Now why pig again and again? Because hog basically is a pig, but that is HOG. Acha. And option D is, it is a malware. Malware means it is like a software code but which is harmful. So it is a malware which has been affecting Android operating systems. So which out of this is correct? And the correct option is D. Okay. So all of these, because pig and DNA strands, all of these have actually been given to confuse the aspirants. Again, people who do not have an idea might tend to go for option A or even the other options, but in reality the answer should be D, a malware which is affecting Android operating systems. And I have pasted the link of Live Mint newspaper from where I have taken this particular topic. Okay, please go to this particular article, read about strand hog. There are many other articles also, but this was published in the Live Mint, so I've taken this particular article and framed this question. Right, so with this we complete the 5 questions for the day, and like every other day I have also kept 1 page for you to take down the self notes after having gone through these articles. So just elaborate on the topics and take down detailed notes so that you can just revise it before your exam. Okay, so with this we will end our session for the day, and we will meet again with a new set of topics. So till then, study hard and stay safe. Thank you so much.